The number one question that I get is, how do I learn what you're doing? Or how did I get into it? Today, I'm going to share with you exactly how I got started. Luckily, everything is documented already on this YouTube channel. From my first ever repair. Welcome to my new YouTube channel. I have no knowledge, no experience, nothing when it comes to repairing technology. First thing we're going to do is replace a battery on a broken iPhone 5. Oh my God, we've done it. Look, we've opened an iPhone. To learning how to use eBay, both buying and selling.
I have never, ever sold a Nintendo DS Lite or anything, for that matter of fact, on eBay.
And even landing myself a job in the repair space. Today, we're looking at ticket number 13473, and it's a faulty PlayStation 5 that has a bad USB port. My name's Joey, and 5 years ago, I was an IT second line support technician. I remember very vividly being on the late shift and having a little bit of time to myself to think about what I wanted to do with my life. I'd had various jobs, from working in a call center, delivering leaflets, doing a stint in inbound telesales, handling rotors. And I remember saying to myself, enough is enough. I need to stop saying that I'm going to do something and actually give it a go and do it. Like most people, I was watching a lot of YouTube. One of those YouTube channels was called Tronics Fix. Even to this day, Steve, who is the owner of the channel, gives me inspiration to do what I do. Back then, of course, it was a different level. I had no understanding of what exactly it was that he was doing. But for some reason, I just found it so fixating. I was so interested in him taking this stuff that was faulty and repairing it. I couldn't work out myself why I was addicted to watching his videos. Then something just clicked. I said, I'm going to take up this hobby. I'm going to start a brand new YouTube channel, and I'm going to document myself knowing absolutely nothing about repairing. So I done exactly that. I remembered somewhere I had an old iPhone 5 that wouldn't turn on, and I thought that could be the starting point for me. It was my own device, so I wasn't going to be worried about if I broke it any further. It was an older one, so it wasn't going to be as expensive as, say, something like buying a console on eBay and trying to fix that. And it was all about having that initial excitement of taking something apart and even being able to put it back together. I would have found that a success. Did it go like that? Absolutely not. So this is the moment of truth. This hasn't worked for best part of like 6-7 years, I'd say. A lot of people ask me why I wear gloves. And the reason I wear my gloves is because naturally I have quite sweaty palms. When I first started this hobby, I thought me having sweaty palms was going to be an issue because water and electronics do not go together. Who would have thought? I was definitely a bit too overcautious about it. However, saying that, me using gloves now is a staple, dirty gloves specifically, is a staple of this channel. When it comes to repair, a lot about it is the feel of the connectors. It's really hard to kind of explain, especially over a camera. That became a bit harder for me because I was wearing gloves. There might be a lot of people out there that watch my current repair videos now and think to themselves, man, I'm never going to be able to repair things on this level. I'm here to tell you that I was exactly that person. I was you in the same seat. And trust me, I've had my down moments on multiple occasions. However, being in those down moments and pushing through is what made me the tech that I am today. If you want to get into the game of repair, you have to have patience and a desire to problem solve. Also, please be aware, you will never know everything. Technology changes by the day. Absolutely. I wouldn't say it's a massive requirement, but if I had the attention span that was worth anything more than a fish, I'd recommend using YouTube as a primary resource for that information. 99.5% of what I know now is learnt from me watching others on YouTube. I'm not going to specifically sit here and go through every single channel that I've watched that inspires me. However, if you're looking for bare basics, where to start, go up to the little YouTube search bar, type in Learn Electronics Repair, go to this channel, go on to playlists, and you see this one on the left, beginners start here. You want to click on that and click play all. And would you look at this? You have a full playlist. If I had half a brain, this is where I would start. On top of that, everybody watches different people. So I, in the description, will put out a list of channels that I highly recommend checking out. Me, the reason why I didn't start in that position is because I'm much more of a practical person, as in I need to be able to do something for my brain to register and learn about it. I can't unfortunately recommend any degrees or qualifications, anything like that, because I don't know about them personally. And everybody learns at a different pace. myself, for example, I need to go back to that playlist that I've just shown you and watch those videos. I think I'm going to understand a lot more this time because of the work that I've put in. And hopefully what I'm thinking is that it's going to make it easier for me to intake all that information. At least I hope so. And that's what I keep telling myself. But if you're somebody who learns from actually just watching somebody else, the playlist I've just shown you will be fantastic. If I was going back and starting this whole journey again, I'd firstly ask my family and friends if they had any sort of tech that was faulty or not, that they were thinking of just throwing away, disposing of. I'd take those items, I'd take them apart, and I'd put them back together. Rinse and repeat. This, in my opinion, is one of the most valuable skills you can have as a repair technician. I know it seems extremely simple, but like they say about most things, as long as you nail down the basics, the rest will come easier. Repeat that process over and over again until you know exactly where every single screw goes back with your eyes closed. What does that actually achieve? It will eliminate a lot of doubt in your repair journey. If I know 100% that I've put a console back together correctly, but for some reason or another, it now has a new fault, it's developed a new one, which by the way, happens a lot more than what you think it will, you'll then be able to trace your steps back comfortably, knowing exactly what you've already done to put that console together. It should make it a lot easier for you to fault find that device. Let's take a Nintendo DS Lite as an example. I'd honestly say that to take that device apart and put it back together is more complex than a PS5. The level of frustration and anger you will have when taking this device apart, I can't even tell you. Deep breaths, man. You got deep breaths. We go again. We move. The moment of truth in 3, 2, 1. Doesn't turn on. I don't know anything about like circuits or anything, but we need to take it back apart anyway. Those ribbon cables in those devices at the time will be a killer. You'll hate it, but it will be one of the best lessons you've ever had, taking something apart and putting it back together and getting the feel for the screws, the ribbon cables, the connectors, everything. The skill that humbled me personally big time was the tightness of the screws being hand tight. Like, what is hand tight? Everybody has different hand strength. And my advice is that after practice of taking things apart and putting them back together, you'll definitely begin to understand how hand tight you should go, as well as knowing how much pressure to apply to certain connectors or tiny little clasps that you have in certain devices. This step is hugely underrated. In the event of not actually having friends or family that have older devices that I was able to take apart and put back together, I simply just go onto eBay, type in different search terms as simple as faulty devices or no power specifically, and just look for the cheapest deals. It's very important to note I was only spending what I could afford. In my head, I said to myself, this is money I'm going to chuck away. I'm going to use this as an investment in myself to learn how to go about fixing things. If I wasn't fixing this, I'm either using it as a donor part or it's going in the e-waste. I didn't think about making a profit at that stage of learning. There's no point. And I had that thought process for quite a while. Eventually, I then actually found out that, you know what, if I buy something that I'm not able to fix, I'll just relist it back on eBay with a list of the stuff that I had done to it personally as faulty. And then at least maybe I might be able to claim some of that money back. But please do not go into this thinking I'm going to make loads of profit. And look at that money that you're chucking away almost as an investment in your skill and your time. I'll be 100% upfront and honest with you. Like I said just now, everybody learns in their own pace. I'm not here to tell you that you shouldn't be offering a service as a repair after 3-4 months of practicing. It took me a very long time, I'm talking years, to feel comfortable taking on a device and then charging somebody for a competent repair. Even to this day, I don't offer repair as a service. It can be very stressful. There's a YouTube channel out there called Salem Techsperts who's had a computer repair shop over in the US for quite a while, shut down maybe June last year, 2024, and has made multiple videos about the stress of offering repair as a service. I'm pretty sure that shop is more so about computer repair, laptops, etc., much less of the micro soldering aspect, HDMI ports, all of that good stuff, but it is still repair as a service, just computer based. I do not think there is a possibility to make money that you can comfortably live on buying faulty items, doing them up, and then selling them, unless you are able to get them in bulk for a very, very, very good price. I have a series called Profit or Loss where I buy faulty items on eBay, fix them, and then sell them. And my biggest issue is inventory. eBay's a tough one because there's a lot of people on there that have potentially already tried to fix something and then they're just flogging it off to somebody else, thus making the repair 3-4 times as hard. You then have to consider additional costs, not just the postage and packaging, but the time it's going to take you to post and pack that item. All of your bills, whether you work in your house or somewhere else, you rent a place, unless you are buying pallet loads for ridiculously cheap or finding free items that are broken, I don't think you can make a sustainable living as far as I'm aware, specifically repairing faulty games consoles. You might be able to do it with iPhones and other items, but I personally don't have experience in that field. The way you're probably going to be making money best, and I had this experience working at a repair shop myself, is by offering repair as a service. I'm not going to go into all of the pricing models because there are endless ways that you can charge. But what I'm here to tell you and advise is please do not even consider offering repair as a service unless you are 120% confident in your ability. And please do not practice on customer devices. Do not tell people, yeah, no problem at all, I'll be able to fix that for you in 3 days. When in reality, you don't know how long it's going to take. You don't know if you can even get the parts for it. You don't know if you could do the job. There's so much to it. Always, if you're considering going into repair as a service, be open, upfront, and honest with the customer about how much time it's going to take, what the cost is, what further costs they actually might incur, and please make sure one of the most important things, keep them updated on the repair journey. I always said that working in the repair shop, the ability to actually fix the device is probably about 30-40% of a split in terms of importance of what you actually do. The rest of that percentage is your customer service. You could be the best tech in the world and you could do the job to perfection, but if that job has taken you a few days longer than what it is that you said it would take and you didn't update the customer, that word of mouth isn't going to be that strong. But if you show that customer that you care about their device, that will mean so much more to them. Now I'll run through some really basic bits of equipment that I use. It's not going to be every single bit of equipment, but more so any tips or tricks or hints that I can think of that will help you, especially as a beginner. Example number one. Again, I'll make sure that I leave affiliated links down below in the description for each thing that I'm going to show you. Now, this may seem really simple, and I learned this from Rocket Repairs. If I was getting used to taking a device apart and putting it back together, I would simply copy the layout of the motherboard and place the screws on the mat. Ignore the screws that are here now, they're just in a clump mess because I know where they all go. But when I started out, this was really important. I'd even go as far as to like score the white tack here and here for different levels. That can be really handy for stuff like MacBooks where you have different layers of screws. Alternatively, most of your toolkits now from especially LTT and iFixit and whatnot come with these little compartments which are magnetic, which really help with your screw assortment, should I say. It's got nice little grids here as well. Doing something as simple as that, just organizing your screws so you know exactly where they go back, will help you tenfold. I would also advise to maybe, if you could, record what you're doing, but I completely also understand that that isn't doable for everybody, but it really helps. If you think you made a mistake, you can always just go back and check over your steps. I think something like that is actually much more important when it comes to customer repair. Having the proof of what you need, because unfortunately there are some people out there who will try and pull a fast one, and having the video recorded evidence. If you can't do videos, make sure you're taking pictures, and that will save you in the long run. As for tweezers, I actually go for, I say these are my 3 main tweezers. Tweezers are quite important when it comes to micro soldering repair, but they're also really good for taking stuff out like ribbon cables, etc., as long as you're careful. Well, I can't forget my ceramic tweezers. I've not used those in quite a while, but this is something like an assortment that I'd actually go for if I was new to the game. I have the bigger iFixit ones here for bigger chips. This, for example, might be one of the HDMI encoder ICs on a PS5 or PS4. These are just some AliExpress special tweezers, precision ones. These ones are really strong and robust. So I'll use these maybe if I don't want to damage the ends of these ones here, because it takes a lot for them to actually break. These ones are iNeezys. I fell in love with these tweezers about 2 years ago. They're 0.15mm. And they're called FX-03, and they just feel really good for me personally. Now, all of this stuff isn't gospel. Feel free to go and have a look and experiment with all these different tools. You have to make sure it's right for you. And then finally, the ceramic ones. Again, relatively big, very good under heat load as well, and in the right setting can be good for getting out ribbon cables, etc. Braid, aka wick. Doesn't have to be anything special. This one I think is actually quite expensive. It's called Super Wick, but especially when you're getting started, the £20 Amazon starter kit that I'm going to recommend will be more than suffice. But you're going to need your wick to clean up excess solder on the board, save yourself in a lot of scenarios as well, and it can even be used as anchor points for certain things. If you're enjoying this type of video and you'd like to see some maybe beginner tips on specific things like how to use some wick, let me know in the comment section down below. King of the castle for me is my microfiber cloths. I love these things, and I rewash them as well, so I'm not just constantly chucking them away. But you can see that they've definitely had some use. I'll use these specifically for drying up bits of IPA that I've dropped on a board, for example. And what you'll notice is that when I go to use a microfiber cloth, I'm dabbing rather than like scrubbing, because if I go ahead and scrub any sensitive components, well, they shouldn't be on the board if they're sensitive, but you always run the risk of just pulling something off. So I always recommend, if you're trying to get some flux off or something like that, come in with your IPA and just dab with your microfiber cloth. But these are really, really cheap, and they're great for blowing your nose as well. Make sure you try and get yourself some sort of mat as well. But even before you get into the realms of like soldering and using heat, it's nice to have something like a mat on your desk. Your screwdriver, if you're starting out, is probably going to be your most important piece of kit. Now, this video isn't sponsored by LTT, nor is it sponsored by iFixit, but I just alternate between the two, the LTT one and the iFixit kit. iFixit have something like this, like a little essentials electronics toolkit. I don't think this is relatively expensive at all. I'm actually missing some of the bits from it. It is a little bit of a cheaper material for them to be able to afford to sell it at the price they do for the cheaper stuff. So for example, this is a bit more plastic, so it doesn't have the strong weight to it. It comes with, you know, a spudger, which is very, very important. You've got your metal prying tool here as well, and pretty much all of the basic essential screwdriver bits and heads just here. Failing that, if you don't want to use iFixit, that's also fine. You can find 10, 12 pound screwdriver sets on Amazon, even cheaper. A lot of people already have, you know, Phillips heads and stuff in their household anyway. Joey, what solder you be using? I mean, I have a couple in here. And again, when you're starting early doors, guys, it really doesn't matter too much. This is some like Duratool leaded solder. Rosin core solder wire. It's a 60-40 mix, and it's 0.7 mil in width. That seems to be a really good length for me. I did have this Weller one before, but this is 1.5 mil thickness, which meant that if I was trying to solder like in between little areas on PCBs, the solder was bigger than the component. It wasn't working out too well. So I mean, if you want, you can get solder for cheap enough. And again, it comes in that little beginner kit. I'd say maybe buy a couple of different width sizes, because you never know what you might need. I won't go into thermal cams and holders and all that stuff, because again, I don't think you necessarily need it. A multimeter might be a nice little tool for you to get used to. My one that I have is actually a box over there, but it plugs into my PC, so I can't really drag it over. But again, I've had the cheap ones on Amazon. I've had a £10 one, £15 one, £50 one, and they all pretty much do the same thing. Some can be more temperamental than others, but I'd recommend honestly just getting a little cheap one to start with and just playing around with it. Again, soldering irons and hot air stations, I don't need to go into what it is that I'm currently using. You don't need that if you're just starting out. Again, get used to the cheap ones, practice, get better, and then once you found out that you actually enjoy the hobby, because that's an important thing, by the way, you might start buying all this equipment and you might not enjoy it. You might not have the patience. It might not just be your thing, in which case you wouldn't have wanted to spend £500 on a soldering station, and instead you'll be thanking yourself that you only spent that £15-20. Also, early doors alongside YouTube, when you're taking stuff apart and putting it back together, iFixit has pretty much everything you can imagine in terms of knowing how to take something apart and put it back together. If you're somebody who reads better and you like following pictures, then these guys are brilliant. But again, me personally, I like to watch somebody take it apart so I can mimic some of their exact movements of how they were doing it. But again, everyone's different, and you might prefer just looking at some pictures or reading a guide.
Taking things apart can get very, very messy. So try your best to keep your workplace organized so you don't get confused. You can do this by assorting your screws like I mentioned earlier, and keeping parts of your devices separate in a clear space. Always make sure that if you're soldering or using flux in a small confined area, that you have sufficient ventilation. This could be something as simple as having a fan on your desk that blows all of that nasty stuff out of your window, or you could do what I did and start with a small fume extractor. They're not fantastic, but they do somewhat of a job. I now have an Atten, I think it's an 1101 fume extractor, and it did cost me around about £350, but it doesn't even give the flux fumes a chance to enter my nostrils. But as I always say, health is wealth is very, very important and definitely should not be overlooked. When starting out, I'll be honest, I didn't realize the importance of flux. I remember my first flux being it was in like a nail varnish tube, and I would unscrew it and lather a little bit of flux on, but I'd use like the tiniest bit. I later found out that that flux wasn't that great, but can you solder without flux? Sure, of course you can. Does it make your life 10 times easier when you do use it, especially in the early days? Absolutely. The one thing to bear in mind though is that the more flux you use, the messier your PCB will be, and ultimately it's going to be harder to keep it clean. My flux usage has come down tremendously. I'd say I started out with a little bit of usage of flux, and then as time went on, I used mounds of it, but just tried to make sure that I could clean up where I could. And now in the past year, I'd say I've really minimalized how much flux I use. Like I said, just to keep the board a little bit cleaner. And believe it or not, the fumes that you get when you're soldering, you get a lot more of them from using flux than what you do with the solder. And if you do get some coming from your solder, chances are it's more than likely going to be flux inside that solder. So please remember, health is wealth, and it's super important to get that ventilation sorted. If it's possible, try and get your PCBs that you're working with to a warm enough temperature. If you take a soldering iron and you use it on a cold board, that PCB is going to take up all of that heat. It's going to absorb it from your soldering iron, and it's going to cause your soldering iron to work a lot harder than it needs to. It's going to be really, really difficult to solder, especially in the early days. If you're lucky enough to actually have a hot air gun at this point, then you can, I understand most people won't, but you can use that to warm the area of the board up. Just go for the max heat setting with the maximum amount of airspeed and just go all over the PCB. It will make your job 10 times easier. If you're really, really on it and you enjoy what you do, then a board heater would be recommended. I still to this day do not use a board heater, but yes, that would make my life easier as well. On that same note, as a quick tip, when adding solder specifically to a component on a PCB, ensure that the tip of your soldering iron is touching both the component and the PCB. This is going to give you maximum heat transfer. Arguably one of the biggest ones. Grab yourself a bunch of donor boards. They can be really, really cheap on eBay and other sites, and practice. Plus, you'll probably accumulate quite a few in the early days. Take components off, put them back on. Put too much flux or too little and see how it compares. Use different cleaning methods on those boards to see what works and what doesn't. I don't think I've mentioned it yet, but IPA, isopropyl alcohol, 99.9% is going to be your best friend. It's all about learning and ultimately having fun whilst doing it. If you have fun whilst doing it and you enjoy what you do, you'll more than likely see it through. If you're, say, at a stage where you have been soldering and you're very comfortable with taking maybe a specific device apart and putting it back together, and you feel like you yourself have had enough practice doing it, I'd then reach out to your family, your friends, and see if they have any of those specific devices maybe that are faulty that you can fix for them, potentially free of charge. I understand that your valuable time is also equally worth money, but you can use this as an opportunity to see how you deal with customers, and they can then share that experience back with you. So if you need to make any adjustments or even learn something about yourself that you didn't know about, I think that's a great way to start before you run with this as a service. You might just be looking for a new interesting hobby, in which case I hope I've answered majority of your questions. Surround yourself with people that are also into repair, whether that be they've just started or they're experts, as part of a little shield, I guess. But at the same time, this will provide you with immense value. In the Joey Does Tech official Discord, which I'll leave a link down below, there is something called a repair forum, in which case it's exactly that, a repair forum. You can post your issues and then the community kind of comes together and helps you out with those issues. This was posted yesterday at 6 o'clock and there's already been 172 comments on it. It's a great place to keep all of the repairs organized, and if you want to search for a specific fault, so if I typed in here PS5, you'll see all of the issues that people have had with their PS5s. Obviously, you can go a lot more specific to really hone in on what issue you have. As well as that, this beautiful little spreadsheet is called Sally's Spectacular Spreadsheet. People have been asking me for the longest time if they can get their hands on Sally, and I've created a template of Sally's Spectacular Spreadsheet so that you can use it yourself. You can use this to log your faults, so you would put in the item, your purchased eBay listing if you did purchase it on eBay, what the original fault was, if it's fixed or not fixed, and how did you fix it. This is extremely basic. If you know me and my channel, we like basic. In here, we've also got a little calculator. I automatically put a 9% eBay fee. To change that specifically, you can go into the box and just adjust this figure here. This is 9% representative. Hit enter, and then whatever you put in the cost and the parts will work itself out. I'll give you an example. Something cost me £100. I use £10 in parts and I want a rough sell price. I'm going to go with £200. The eBay fee is £18 and our gross profit, because we had the £100 cost in the parts, is £72. This tab down here, the items tab, also does that, but on a much larger scale if you're looking to track those items that you've sold. There's 3 columns here, which I'd advise you not to type in because they're formulated. Is this one for the eBay fee 9%? Again, though, you can just go through and adjust these if you want. The estimated profit, because that takes into consideration everything, deducts it, and then gives you your profit, and the net profit after that as well. We got a postage one in here also. Then you've got another tab at the bottom, which is called your total profit. And this will tell you how much you're actually managing to earn hourly if you want to, when you fill all this out. This spreadsheet is going to be used for people who also want to buy and sell stuff, or if you're looking just to log things that you get, you can use it for that as well. The cost of Sally's Spectacular Spreadsheet is free. Only thing that I ask in return is an email address. Now, in a JDT way of being open and transparent, I can then use your email address and put it on a mailing list for JDT. So if I in the future go to sell any products or services, I can then send you an email for exclusive discounts or just to let you know that that's something that I'm planning to do. If you go ahead and download Sally, but you don't want to be included on a mailing list, you can also opt out from that in the future. But I want to try and encourage, inspire, and help people as much as I possibly can, because at the end of the day, you've helped me get here, and I'm really appreciative of that. So for the spreadsheet, there'll also be a link down below in the description. If you have any further ideas or something that you'd like to see from myself from a beginner's perspective, feel free to leave it in the comment section down below, and I might make a video on it. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Peace.